All right, we're talking about a man bun gun. If you don't know what it is, you're going to want to tune in right now. We're talking with Mike McNett of DoubleTap right here on Gun Talk Hunt. Welcome into Gun Talk Hunt. I'm your host, KJ, and today we're talking about everybody's favorite man bun gun, the 6.5 Creedmoor. We're talking, we're really talking with Mike McNett about it. He's from DoubleTap Ammunition, and no better guy to do it because he has a lot of experience. But this Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by ATN, the future of optics, Sig Sauer, Gun Dealio, and Silencer Central. Silence delivered. Mike, welcome in.
Hey, man, it's great being here.
Is it? I mean, come on.
It really is. It's air conditioning here.
Yeah, I know. We've been out on the range. We've been filming our new season of Guns and Gear coming out here pretty soon, so buckle up for that. So the first, you asked me right before, you were like, well, what do we want to talk about? And I said, man bun gun, and you just busted out laughing. I did not coin that term. A very, very good friend of mine in Colorado, and I'm not going to say his name because he's kind of bashful on the interwebs, but because he won't give me his username, and he keeps creeping on me, and it's kind of freaking me out because he knows too much.
Weird.
He knows too much, but he said, "I bet you hunt with one of those man bun guns," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, 6.5 Creedmoor, and I was like, I sure do. I couldn't discount it.
Just about everybody has one now.
I think everybody has one, but they don't all use them for the same purposes.
Correct.
But I've enjoyed hunting with the 6.5 Creedmoor until this last year.
Tell me about it.
Oh, where to start? Well, first, I shoot with an ELDX bullet. So you know bullet construction and everything, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a lot of guys. That's really one of the only ones really kind of that when it first came out, I was like, all right, that's the hunting bullet. Because there's an ELDM, which is their match round, right? But so I'm sitting up on this whitetail. I hit it. Okay, I thought I hit it pretty good. Didn't go down. So I hit it again. Didn't go down. Ended up, I spent the better part of 2 weeks looking for this animal. It jumped. Like, I think it ended up jumping, to my knowledge, it jumped 4, which I saw, 6, like, barbed wire fences.
Oh, wow.
So, and this sucker was hit hard. And so my question is what happened?
Penetration. Your bullet probably broke up is most likely what happened. Is a lot of times with the 6.5 Creedmoor, we're using bullets that are made more to shoot long range and to make good groups on paper and steel.
Right.
Than we are worried about the construction of the bullet to bring down an animal and get that penetration. We were just on the range talking about.
Right.
We're really just getting that penetration to get deep enough, to drop an animal and go through the vitals and break bone and do the things you got to do. And the 6.5 Creedmoor, when it originally came out, was a complete flop. Came out, and us and another manufacturer were the only ones to load it. We were the only two on the whole planet that were loading it, and I thought it was kind of a cool, long range caliber for like my kids to shoot and stuff. It didn't kick much, and we had nice long sleek bullets, and then. Ruger and a bunch of other manufacturers started coming out with rifles for it. Right. And now you can't find a manufacturer of ammunition that doesn't make it.
Right.
Really. I mean.
Well, so now let's back up a couple of years. Mm-hmm. I'm in Canada. Same bullet, same gun. We were in the early stages. An elk.
Mm-hmm.
2 shots, done. Within 10 yards.
Okay.
Within 10 yards. So, I skinned it out and everything. Couldn't find the bullet, of course. Great shots. But I thought the whitetail was great shots too. But it brought an elk down within 10 yards.
The same round?
Same bullet? Same bullet.
So again, it all comes down to the bullet construction and where you hit it. So if you hit the whitetail on the shoulder, big, thick bone to go through.
Okay.
And with that particular bullet you're mentioning is really fragile.
Yeah.
And when it hits, it can break up. If you sneak one between the ribs on an elk, or if you'd have done on that whitetail, I think it would have done a lot of damage on the inside, because it does disrupt easily. And I like to in the 6.5, I like to have, first of all, I like to keep my ranges when I'm hunting in check.
Right.
Because it is not, so it shoots the same exact bullet that the 6.5 Swedish shoots. It shoots the same bullet that the 26 Nosler shoots on the fast end, which 3,600 feet per second.
Yeah.
And it shoots the same one as the 6.5 284, 264 Win Mag. You can just keep talking about all those 6.5 Grendel and everything. 260 Remington. There's so many that shoot that 264 bullet. It's on the slower end of the range for speed for any given bullet weight, and so the 260 and 6.5 Creedmoor are ballistic twins, and the 6.5 Creedmoor is inherently pretty accurate. And so you can get a relatively inexpensive gun and get a lot of different manufacturers will make an accurate load for it, and you can shoot longer range with it. And that's the magic of it. And that's the magic. And
I know what you're going to tell me too. You're going to tell me that we're breaking ourselves into this false security, right?
Yeah.
Of, man, I can shoot out to like 600, 700, 800 yards.
That's right.
Or more.
Yeah. So like, for instance, I go out to 1,000 all the time. And I'll bring my kids out, and, even when they were 8, 9, 10 years old, I put the bipod up, I put them on the bench.
Oh, yeah.
I did all that stuff for them, dialed it, got it all ready, went in the morning so there wasn't much wind. And, they were hitting targets, that were, 2 minutes maybe at 1,000 yards with a 6.5 Creedmoor. And,
like it's nothing.
And with a 224 Valkyrie too.
Okay.
Just a little miniature version of a 6.5 Creedmoor. And, do I think that those same kids would be able to hit at 1,000 yards in the right spot off of a tree limb or pair of shooting sticks? Not in a million years. I wouldn't be able to do it.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
There's no way I could do it.
Yeah.
Well, I look at it, and I keep my ranges in check. The elk was shot at 135 yards.
That's way beyond your range.
Yeah. You're probably right. You've seen me shoot. And then the whitetail was out at like 220.
Okay.
Something like that. So I don't think that's extending the boundaries of them.
No, it should be fine.
But I do hear that a lot. And the gentleman I was talking about who's out of Colorado, that's what he sees a lot. He sees guys coming out there and wounded big game, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger problem.
So one of the things that is inherently good with the 6.5 Creedmoor is something that I saw early on in matches, where if you didn't have a spotter, you were just on your own shooting a long range match, that you could get on the gun, get on the target, dial it up to, let's say, 900 yards or whatever it was.
Right.
And you could shoot, and you could actually see where you hit, and then you could make the adjustment on the spot.
Okay.
Rather than have somebody say, hey, you're 2 minutes right, 2 minutes left. Like, if you do it with a 300 Ultra Mag, that's what you're going to have to do. Because there's no way you come out of recoil and see where it hits.
Right.
And so you could make that adjustment for downrange wind off the first shot and use those same same windage for all of your targets. If you adjust for, like, if it's you think it's a 12 mile an hour wind, then you can use that for everything from 600 to 1,000, doesn't matter.
Right.
And so you could take it and kind of be your own spotter with that cartridge. That's the one real advantage that it has, other than being, pretty dang accurate inherently.
Right.
But you are right. There are a lot of people that come out and say my 6.5 Creedmoor is the one rifle, one planet,
one ring to rule them all.
That's right. That's right.
Is that it?
That's right. Anything and everything, and it doesn't mean that with a perfect shot with a I think Barnes might still make those 120 grain solid brass bullets. They're pointed. that you couldn't bring down something huge,
right?
With a perfect shot in the head with it or something.
And maybe it's a lack of education, especially early on. I'm sure it was with me, of bullet construction.
Yes,
and I think that's, last year we had a guns and gear piece, and we were testing the ELDX, and in my mind I kind of thought I knew what was going to happen, and then we filmed it, and I was like, this isn't at all what I thought it was. I mean, it broke apart easily. I mean, within gelatin, there was nothing left.
It's a very fragile bullet, and
it's
inherently accurate because at the end of the day, the thinner the jacket, the thinner the material, the more concentric it can be, and it's easier to do. It's originally like, all the match bullets that are out there. They have really super thin jackets,
right?
And they all have pure lead cores with as little air pockets and things in there as possible, so that when it spins at 80,000 RPMs or whatever it spins at, depending on the speed you're shooting, you don't have to worry about it being just a little bit off, because then it'll just keep getting worse as it goes further out.
And I get in my own mind about like, oh well, 6.5 is great because you've met my son. He's a little guy, and I have him shooting whitetail with it, and his shots have been close. He has dropped every one of them right where they stand.
That's because he's a better shot than you.
That's a fact. That's 2 times you've referenced my shooting, which he's right. But it's like I see stuff like that happen with the 6.5 Creedmoor, and I'm like, I go back and I go, well, maybe it's not so bad. But then the worst is what I remember right now. Like I keep going back to that. Like, man, I don't want to lose another. That's right. Big whitetail, or I don't want to wound an animal. And that's our goal, is it's recovery and processing all that food, like all that deliciousness. But
I've seen several hogs taken with a 9mm. It just doesn't mean that's the best one to take it with.
That's a good one.
It's totally true.
I mean, that's a good point, because I've taken with a 204 Ruger.
Okay.
Hogs with a 204 Ruger. It was all about shot placement.
That's right.
It was right in the ear hole, There you go. I mean, but you're right. There's a time and place for those rounds. We're going to jump in here real quick from a word from our sponsors. And on the backside of this, I want to talk about bullet construction and where you think maybe if someone isn't willing to go like, okay, well, I need another cartridge, or I need another caliber. I need a transition from my 6.5 and keeping all the benefits of that and moving to something else.
Okay.
And then we're going to give them that option right after this. Silencer Central. Did you know you can get a silencer delivered right to your door? Yeah, you don't have to go in a gun shop. You don't have to do your fingerprints at a sheriff's office, nothing like that. They will send the prints and print kit right to your house. You fill out all the paperwork. They manage the trust for the entirety of the trust. They do it, so you don't have to. So all that can be done at silencercentral.com. Find your next Banish 30 or the brand new Banish 46 at silencercentral.com. Sig Sauer. I own one. I love them. You know what? This read tells me I need to read about the Sig Cross, but we just got finished shooting the Sig Sauer X10 10mm. It's basically a beefed up P320 10mm. Holy crap, guys. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you are a fan of the 10mm and you love the P320, you're going to want to get your hands on this. It's a brand new launch. 5-inch barrel, 20 round magazine. So yeah, it holds a lot of 10mm thumping power, but find out more at sigsauer.com. And ATN, I've been running a Thor 4 for quite a few years now, and my buddy over there, Steve Lemanoff at ATN, got me hooked up with this thing, and I'm going to tell you, it explodes the night. If you're looking to get into thermal, so really thermal, I think is your next stepping stone after night vision, and the green colors and all the different colors that you do get with your night vision are great, but I'm going to tell you, nothing hides with thermal, and the Thor 4 from ATN, everything pops off the screen. It's got a lot of pixels in that. So and there's a lot of technology built into it too. One shot zero, you've got Wi-Fi or Bluetooth in it. and you can record on it. So you can record those memories and save them for later. But find your optics now along with monthly promos. They do have refurbished units that are just as good as the new ones. So check out all the deals at atncorp.com. That's atncorp.com. All right, Gun Talk hunters. I am back with Mike McNett, and we're talking about the Bun Gun 6.5 Creedmoor 4. Have you ever heard it called that?
That's the first time is today. That's actually funny. It made me laugh out loud. Actually.
I mean, it's kind of accurate. I mean, there's got to be some other names for it. I'm sure my buddy will tell me. But we're talking about bullet construction now of the 6.5 Creedmoor and what might be a better bullet for you to shoot.
Sure. What you need to do is you need to look for a bonded bullet.
Mm-hmm.
So you buy a 6.5 Creedmoor. Initially, everyone buys it because it's a long-range gun and it's inherently accurate. As I've said like 4 times, there's really the two things that it does really well. One thing it really does is it does 2 things. First of all, it starts relatively quick. Like it starts at, most of the other rounds are going between 2,800 and 3,100 depending on the bullet weight. So has a high velocity to start off with. So your closer shots. So an average hunter shoots 100 to 200 yards. Don't discount that you're going to get that shot because you may be all geared up for 700-yard shot or something like that. But when it comes out at 85, you're still going to take the shot.
And that bullet still has to do its job.
It still has to do its job. It has to hold together. Exactly. And so what you want to do is you want to find a bullet that can take advantage of both short range and long range. So you have to find something that's tough enough that it won't come to pieces, like the thing you were talking about earlier, the bullet you were talking about earlier. It'll hold together. So either it has to be monometal, which means solid copper, or a bonded bullet. Those are your 2 best short range, hold together, give it all you got, expanding bullets.
Okay.
The other thing that you're going to want is you're going to want a nice sleek bullet. So typically boat-tailed with a nice polymer tip on it to add to the ballistic coefficient.
Okay.
Because the higher the ballistic coefficient, the better that it is able to maintain its velocity, and the higher the ballistic coefficient, the better that it works against the wind.
Okay.
Both of those things, because it's all about time in the air. So it's not about some magic because someone said that was a 6.5 Creedmoor. What it is it's really when the time it shoots to the time it hits the target, that amount of time in the air, that 0.8 of a second or that 1.1 seconds, that's how long that gravity's pulling on it.
Okay.
And so if you can get it so instead of being 1.1 seconds, it can be 0.9 of a second because it's going faster.
Okay.
Then that's less time for it to drop.
Gotcha.
And so at the end of the day, and of course, the other part is terminal ballistics of the bullet. When it hits the target at 2,400 feet per second instead of 1,900 feet per second, because it's got a higher ballistic coefficient, it can do more damage. It has more ability to do work, more energy.
Gotcha.
And so my opinion here, of course, we all just have opinions.
We want this.
Is you want to get a polymer tipped, boat-tailed, bonded, or solid copper bullet that is made to expand down below 2,000 feet per second.
Okay.
But also, by design, could handle a really close range shot. So, like for example, years ago, 2012, 12, 6.5 Creedmoor was still languishing. 6.5 284 actually had more legs than the 6.5 Creedmoor as far as sales went. 26 Nosler hadn't been invented yet. Tim over at Barnes and I were working on the perfect 6.5 bullet. And that 127 LRX may be the perfect 6.5 bullet, really.
Really?
Yeah, that's one that we went back and forth on. It was 130 was too dang heavy for it to stabilize perfectly. 125 just wasn't heavy enough for me. So I was like, let's do 120. Let's go a little bit heavier. And we went back and forth. Yeah, a bunch of times. And that one there will hold together. Even out of a 26 Nosler, I've killed dozens and dozens and dozens of big game animals.
Really?
Dozens of big game animals with a 26.
Okay.
And And then the same thing with the 6.5 Creedmoor. Not as many because I do prefer the 26 to the 6.5 Creedmoor, but it shows you how tough it is.
Right.
I mean, it can hammer stuff at 3,600 feet per second. It loses.
That's
how fast we push it out of a 26 nozzle.
Gosh. What length of barrel? 22?
26-inch barrel.
26-inch barrel. Oh, okay. Woo.
Yeah, it's a killer going that fast. It really is. I mean, it hit huge bear, and I've shot. We took it to Africa a couple of times and shot some really cool game with it. It's a tough bullet. Anyway, that's one of my favorites because he and I went back and forth trying to perfect that. So I feel like I have a part of that bullet.
Yeah, quite a bit. It sounds like.
Yeah. The bonded bullets like the Akibons and the Sirocco's, they're really fantastic bullets for that as well. I'm sure I'm leaving some ones out.
Well, because where I kind of naturally start to drift to is the Sirocco's, and you guys offer that.
Yeah. That's a killer bullet. It's a bullet that's made with pure copper on the jacket and a pure lead core, and so because of that, it's not as brittle. So the gilding metal on some of the other jackets is a little more brittle. It's a little harder, a little bit harder, but it's not as malleable. And so when it opens up, and they're bonded, so when it opens up, it's less likely to break those petals off, and so you can keep the weight, which keeps momentum. And the more momentum you have, of course, the deeper you're going to go. So what you don't want to have is at the extremes, you don't want to have that 6.5 Creedmoor break up at 50 yards that you with a super match bullet you'd had. Right. And then on the flip side, because let's face it, the two guys that go out hunting with 6.5 Creedmoor, one of them is going to try that 800-yard shot or that 1,000-yard shot. Yeah. And just the way it's going to be, they can't not do it.
Everyone knows on this show like how I feel about long range hunting. I'm not for it.
So what happens is people get on the range, and there's lots and lots of good ranges out there, and they get buckled down behind a nice concrete bench.
Oh yeah.
And
look at me go.
That's right. And they've got the bags, and they got the bipod or the front bag. They got everything buckled in. They can pull themselves down on it. They got no wind because they went first thing in the morning, just like I did with my kids I was talking about. Everything's good to go, and they can put together, a 10-inch group of 1,000 yards or something, or even 8, whatever it is.
That's a kill zone, right? That's what we're talking about.
So they say, heck, I'm going to go out and shoot.
I'm going to change my elevation and everything. I'm going to add in.
Yeah, I'm going to go shoot elk in Colorado at 9,000 feet elevation, which completely changes your exterior ballistics completely.
I'll tell you what to do. If you're thinking about like going out to Colorado or doing something like that, go acclimate yourself first. Go to a shooting range out there. Start shooting realistically, and you're going to find out that you're not a 1,000-yard shooter.
That's right.
Out there, in my experience.
But do it off realistic like a tree limb or shooting sticks. Yeah. Or whatever you're really going to have in the range, and you'll find that you may not be a 1,000-yard shooter. You're really more like a 500, which is great. 500 is a long ways.
Well, and I went out to FTW, and they kind of did that. They were finding your zero, and they would do it from standing. Mm-hmm. So you'd find your zero, you'd get it, and they'd find where you're comfortable at. And so at standing, I was a 400-yard shooter. I could hit it every time.
Okay.
Kneeling, I was at 500. Prone, I was at like 600. Okay. This isn't like, what I was just dialing in where I was comfortable out in the field hunting.
Okay.
So you're using your bag, you're using your bipod if you had one, or
not
tripod.
The concrete bench.
Not the concrete bench. Nothing. They don't use any of that. And so you find I guess it's your hunter zero, but you do it for standing, for kneeling, all the different shooting positions you would have. So then you would have a reference for when you go into the field, like, I'm going to have to kneel for this shot, so I need to keep it within 200, 300, 400 yards, whatever it is.
So once you figure out what you can shoot, then what you have to do is really, and this is again, my opinion, but I strong opinion about this, is you have to realize what your gun is really, your cartridge that you're shooting, and the bullet and bullet gun rifle cartridge, that really what it is capable of at longer range. So at the end of the day, most of the time you have 120 to 140 grain bullet.
Right.
And it's starting off slower than 3/4 of all the 6.5 cartridges out there. And by the time it gets out there at 700 or 800, even with a really slick bullet, it's going below 2,000 feet per second. It's going slower, and slower, more like 15, 16. And a lot of times you're not going to get it to expand.
Okay.
And so, and especially with the match bullets, when they hit, they kind of tend to crumple up that front end and they'll veer off.
Okay.
So you'll get, instead of it straight, you'll get it going like that. And as soon as you got that, then if you had a heart shot, you don't have a heart shot anymore.
Right.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to bring this up because I was at doing that long range course with FTW and I got to shoot a whitetail with it. Well, we were shooting out longer ranges, and so all they had was ELDMs, like match bullets.
Okay, yeah, that's wrong tool for the
and
job.
I was like, I went to him, I was like, well, what are we shooting for our hunting bullets? And they were like, well, just use that. And I was like, wait, what? I mean, man, talk about having to, like, your shot placement had to be dead on.
Yeah.
Because there was a couple of critters that kind of eluded a lot of guys, and it took us a while to get on them again.
Sure.
To take them down. Luckily, mine died within 20 feet. I mean, it was done. But that's an interesting. I did not know that about the match bullets.
Sure. The match bullets typically will, at shorter ranges, blow themselves little tiny bits and won't penetrate very deep. And at longer ranges, they'll pencil through or bend and pencil in a weird non-linear fashion.
Right.
And they're very unpredictable. Where if you have the type of bullets that I was just talking about earlier, that bonded tipped bullet, it'll open up, it'll provide at lower velocity, it won't open up huge, but it'll look like a fist.
Right.
And it'll punch pretty straight.
Okay.
And if you have a bad shot, you're still a bad shot. If you have a good shot,
that's a good point.
you have a good shot, then it's still a good shot.
Right.
And I really wouldn't recommend, for really big game, very at long range at all. I wouldn't. I think it's a fantastic one-man show, long range target round, and that's where it comes into its own. But for hunting, just keep your ranges. Know what keep your ranges, shorter.
Right.
Know what it can do. If you really want to get out longer and really hit something, get a 26 Nosler, get a 6.5 300 Weatherby. They're both about similar. Get something with, and if you like that bullet and like how sleek that 264 bullet is, even get a 264 Win Mag.
Okay.
I mean all those rounds actually make good use of that bullet.
So one of the other benefits to a 6.5 Creedmoor, guys or gals, whoever it is, recoil, felt recoil.
Sure.
And it's not much. That's what my boys love about it, especially if I'm suppressing it, and they just love it even more. What would you recommend for those guys who are looking for 7mm08? What are you looking for?
Well, it's marginally better. I mean, they're really similar. They use the same parent case, the 308 case, both of those. You're probably better off really going up to like a 7 short mag.
Okay.
270 short mag is another one. I've really taken the 270 short mag way out there with animals before.
Oh, really? It's
really kind of a cool round. You can muzzle brake your rifle and get something big.
Okay.
A really good friend of mine has muzzle braked his 264s and 26s because he loves that bullet.
Right.
His kids are growing up now, but when they were little, they were shooting with the muzzle brake 26 Nosler with a 127 at 3600 and hunting with it.
Oh, okay.
Getting, harvesting big game at 600-700 yards, because they would, out west you can get up on ridges and stuff,
right,
and really just kind of watch and glass an area. It's different than in whitetails in the thick. The thick stuff is different.
So I hate talking to Mike McNett of DoubleTap because he makes me rethink my life choices. Just like my buddy out in Colorado, if he would not have said something, I wouldn't have had problems this year. But I kid you not, it was like September, and he was like, man, you need to get something different because you're going to have problems with that. And sure enough, this year I've had like a couple problems, issues with it. I've just been lucky up to this point, I guess.
Yeah. So like, just so you know, that the 6.5 is actually still a decent deer rifle and stuff. Just I mean, I can't say it enough times. Just keep your range in check and get a stout bullet.
Yeah.
The match bullets, use them for the match, use them for the range.
Poking paper.
That's right.
Yeah.
And steel and hit steel with them.
Yeah.
They make great marks on the steel.
Yeah.
They blow themselves right up. It's great. Yeah. And then use those tougher bullets. And if you can just do that, you will be really happy with the way that your 6.5 Creedmoor performs.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, then you'll probably have a story like you have.
Yeah. And okay, so tell us where they need to go and what they need to get from DoubleTap.
So from us, we keep it really simple.
Right.
So we've got a 140 grain match.
Mm-hmm.
The 140 is really the kind of the cat's meow.
Yeah.
And it is stone dead accurate in the cheapest and the most expensive rifles. As long as you have good glass and you can see, you're going to hit. The 127 LRX that I mentioned before,
yes,
it's going fast. It's going like 3,100. It's moving.
Good gosh.
It's a killer. It's a killer.
Right.
I mean, all the way out to probably 500 to 600 yards, it opens.
Okay.
And so you have a legitimate deep penetrating. It'll hold all 127 grains at that speed.
Okay.
And then the other is the 130 Scirocco.
Yeah.
130 Scirocco is going the same speed as the 127, and it's really accurate in all the 6.5s that we've shot it through, and it's one of those ones that even at sub 100 yards, it's holding it's 85% of its weight. Okay. So those are really the three that we load now. We've had a larger selection, but really we kind of honed it down to the ones that really the best. Yeah. And those three, we got a good match, and then choose between the other two for hunting, and you can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong. Just don't overdo it. It's not a Kodiak bear gun. No. It's not a Cape buff. Don't take it for lion. Yeah. It doesn't mean you can't kill anything. You probably kill a blue whale if you really wanted to, certain shots and stuff. But we're talking about
what's the tag prices on those?
Hunting. Yeah. There's a reason why people use 4.58 lot and 500 nitros and stuff for big game, and they don't use, unless you're Karamojo Bell. Right. You don't use a little gun like that for that type of thing. So just know your gun, know your limits. And use good ammo using good premium bullets, and you'll be fine.
That's it. Wise words from Mr. Mike McNett of DoubleTap Ammunition. Give them a look. Where do they need to go?
You can go to doubletapammo.com and or ask your dealer to order it up through any major distributor has it. So.
Perfect. All right. As always, gun talk hunters, keep those muzzles pointed in a safe direction and always be on the hunt.